Man, I had such a good chat with Richard Patey, and this is actually part two of a super long, pretty close to 2 hour conversation that he and I had a few weeks ago in May. Now, if you haven't seen part one, I'm going to put a card up there in the corner, and I'm also going to link it at the end of this video and down in the description. But you don't need to have heard or seen that part of it to be able to follow along in this conversation. This conversation, this part of it, is mostly about monetizing knowledge through newsletters. Richard is, I think, really ahead of me and ahead of the game of a lot of people using newsletters to monetize his knowledge and reach his audience. I love what he's doing, and I'm super excited to delve in more into what it is that he is doing. And ultimately, this chat, I mean, it was almost like he was coaching me, I guess, a little bit. And it was really valuable to me, and I'm posting the majority of it here for you. And I guess it's a little personal to me and also to him, but I think that it will be valuable. So when you get through to the end, and also as you follow along, please let me know in the comments what you think. All right, here we go.
I know what you mean about not, having to wait for content that you're investing in to rank and to get ad revenue or affiliate clicks. And you're also very dependent on continuous Google traffic. If Google deranks your page, your site, you're not going to get revenue in the future. Whereas if you own your own audience and you have subscribers, and like you say on YouTube, you're getting paid immediately. How quick are the payouts?
Because I have an AdSense account, they just dump it into my next payment for the next month. So
it's every month. Okay, yeah. With what I'm doing with the newsletter now.
Yeah.
Because on the previous, we're calling it the part one that we did previously. This is part two. A little bit.
If folks who are watching this, go up there to the deal, and I'll also put it at the end. I'm going to put a link to our previous conversation about website investing that was posted a couple months ago.
Yeah, there's a bit of a gap in between because I think we probably rambled a bit too much on what you thought you could do for part two previously. So this is going to be the part two now. But in that time, I figured out a much better business model, and I've been doing a lot of research into newsletters. So I had a paid newsletter previously. But now I have a much more of an offering for a free newsletter, and it's such a good business model. I can't believe I didn't stumble on it before.
So so the old newsletter was one that just people pay to subscribe, and then once a week on Wednesdays you send out your curated list with the potential listings, so people would have a shortcut basically to go to find cool stuff to look at as far as website investing. And it has changed. You moved it all over, and now you're sending out, it seems like, more content in that first email with sort of a teaser to encourage people to want to jump in on the paid product. But it seems like really high value, like the first part of a podcast or the first part of a video or the first part of something. Like, what is it now? What does it look like now?
So it's now a publication. So I'm now a media publisher. And it's where I should have always kind of tried to navigate to. It's a very natural fit for me. So I feel my strengths are in writing and in audio. And I found a platform called Substack that incorporates both, and it incorporates a free newsletter with paid options all within the same platform. So it's a very easy upsell. And every time you send out a free newsletter, my free newsletter is on Mondays, Website Investing Weekly. It's a roundup of the last week's news. Every time that email gets sent, if you're not a paid subscriber, there's a little preamble where it says paid subscribers also get access to this. There's one button for subscribe. And the genius of it is that the subscribe button is to get someone's email address to become a free subscriber, and then it's the same subscribe button to get the paid content. So it's just a very smart, seamless checkout process without having a checkout. And it's a very cool place to be. Previously I had an autoresponder. It's, you're wearing the Funnel Hacker t-shirt. I mean, I did the Russell Brunson book.
The ClickFunnels black hole is what I call it.
Yeah, I mean, I went deep into that, like really deep.
Well, you went deeper than I did. You had a gigantic site that you sold, right?
10-page site. So it depends on your definition of gigantic. It was only 10 pages, but I went deep into funnels, yeah, for sure. So in that book, .com Secrets, I think it was, he talked about how you should set out your autoresponder, the soap opera sequence. So I did that. And I had that, I mean, right up until, last month, it was still pretty much there. And, I built a pretty lengthy autoresponder and, the traditional way of doing things. And with Substack, that's now all gone. So the only thing that counts going forward with a newsletter is the new newsletter every time you publish. So you're kind of judged on new content every single time. So there's no email follow-up. It's a completely different approach, and it's just a far better business model for me because I hadn't focused on a free newsletter, and it's kind of how I kind of stumbled into opportunity with the Facebook group, the Flipping Websites Facebook group, because I was one of the first ones to build a group around building and selling websites. It wasn't particularly intentional; it just ended up there. And I think this is similar for the newsletter. It's now a very obvious opportunity, and I find it odd that it wasn't captured previously. And so these newsletters can be very big businesses. So I don't know if you're aware of other ones available. There's one called Hustle.
I mean, the Motley Fool, right? I mean, you see them a lot in investing, paying for a small amount for access for a year to this weekly newsletter. I mean, that's mostly where I've seen it is investing.
Yeah, I need to look at how they do that. So I've got a big Trello list of all the different newsletters and podcasts and how they're finding clever ways of monetizing.
Yeah.
And so my favorite one is Morning Brew. It's a daily business newsletter. And I've just modeled what I think is the best from all the different newsletters that I signed up to. So every day my inbox is just, it just destroys me. There's so many newsletters, but it's really valuable. I look through each one. I skim through. I don't really read the content now, but I see how they're structuring it. And so a news like Morning Brew, it's now got 2 million subscribers and it's generating 20 million revenue, and that's deeply growing. And so the obvious one is ad placements. That's how you monetize a newsletter list. And then being on a platform like Substack, if you have paid content, then you can get paying subscribers. And for me, that's the deals newsletter. It's the way I'm doing it with the podcast is the first 30 minutes of the podcast episodes I put out are free. And then the remaining 1 hour, 1.5 hours, however long the conversation is for paying subscribers. And I've seen other people do that. There's a VC podcast called acquired.fm. And they're on a platform, I think it's called Grow. And that's how they structure it. The first 30 minutes or the first half is free. And I've seen other people do this model as well. And so my monetization now is the sponsorship with ads. It's paying subscribers, which is something that you could consider. And I get paying subscribers because they see the free content. They have the first 30 minutes free of the podcast. And then you can include affiliate into that as well. So yeah, I'm now in a position where I really have a very good chance of scaling this into a sizable business. So I kind of stumbled into an opportunity that I think is a very good fit for me, and it's completely scalable. So previously with the paid newsletter, it was so manual. I was having to sign people up, add them to different lists, add them to different accounts. And so Substack now does all of this for me. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of research into how you can better monetize audiences, podcasts. And yeah, the way I was doing it previously, I definitely left a lot of money on the table, only putting out free content. And so there's been a big switch. Like a lot of big publications, after they've seen like the New York Times put in a paywall, there's so many now that are going to paid content. And it's an area that really interests me. And so yeah, how to better monetize your audience. And there's a lot of people making full-time living on Substack, and I want to get to their top 25. That's my goal for this year. I think you got to get to around $8,000, maybe $10,000 a month now from paying subscribers to do that. But yeah, it's completely scalable. So anyway, that's enough from me with newsletter. But yeah, it's just got me thinking like that. There's a lot of better ways of monetizing an audience than than the traditional ways, than, like info courses or services. You can actually create content that people will pay for. So you could do similar.
Well, before we go down the road of whether or not I could do that, I wanted to make a couple of comments. One is that your passion for this project is so evident. Like, you just seem so very passionate about this and excited about it, which I think is a really good sign, because sometimes we get sucked into these things where we feel like, we have to do it, or this is our strategy, and, we're going to stick with it till we die. And it's just, you're so passionate about it when you speak. It just really comes through to me. And so I like that.
I just didn't see this opportunity 2-3 months ago, and it feels just so daft. Like there are so many obvious ways for people to make full-time living doing this in different niches.
Well, while you were speaking, I was actually, it struck me, because it's like, oh, people don't do this stuff. I mean, not really. I mean, maybe, in investing or whatever. And then as you're speaking, I was like, oh, my cousin Sabrina, we were out just having dinner a couple days ago, and we were talking about current events, and I was like, oh, you should read this book, and you should read this book. She's like, no, she says, I belong to a newsletter, and I forget what it was called, but it was for women in business. She says, I just check this newsletter every day. It just comes to my inbox, and it just gives me the shortcuts to the top trending news stories, so I can read it and sound like I know what I'm talking about on the golf course or with my boss or whatever. It's like this. She says, I don't need to read books. I just get this, and it tells me what I need to know.
Yeah.
And I realized, wow, that could be I don't know if this is a paid product, if it's just something she subscribes to, but you think about what you could convey in value to someone, what you could add to them, and how somebody would be willing to pay for that. You think of it, hits all the marks, right? The growth status, right? People are, chasing status and to do things to grow them to their goals. It's like, wow, you could really apply that to just about any industry, not just women in business, but if you are the golf guy, or you are the drop shipping guy, and you want to have access, just gets it to you quick. Like you could apply that to any business, any niche, anywhere in the world.
I know, it's crazy. Like, I've got a huge Trello list, and I've got a lot of tabs open from pages that I can't seem to close because they're too valuable. So, I mean, there's a guy, Dave Gerhardt, hard for me to pronounce, but he's a marketer.
The D is silent. I think you just say Hurt.
Dave Gerhardt. Okay, is that German? It must be, right?
I don't know. I just here in the US, we just skip the D.
Gerhardt.
It's just Gerhardt.
Okay. So he's on Patreon, and he's got 922 patrons paying $10 a month. So it's $9,000 a month. I think the last time I checked that, like since my tab refreshed, I'm sure he was at like 600 something.
Wow.
And I just got so many more examples of this over and over again, people making full-time livings. But you don't even need to offer paid content in order to do that. So like one of my favorite ones, which I'm modeling, stealing how they're doing their sponsored links within the free newsletter, is iosdevweekly.com. He's got 45,000, I think, when I last read, subscribers, and he charges $1,500 for someone to sponsor a weekly email. So that's $6,000 a month. And I mean, how long does it take to write a weekly email? I mean, for me, I'm finding out it takes at least one whole day. But it's something that if you don't need to be the face of it, you could SOP, you could hire someone. And,
sure.
And so there's a guy called Chris, and his handle on Twitter is Chris Osborne, I'm pretty sure. His handle on Twitter is Kintu Labs, Kintu Labs. He's just launched 20 newsletters over the last month or so.
20?
20, yeah. So he I've known about Chris for a long time. So he's had newsletters previously that he's actually sold as businesses. And I saw one on Empire Flippers, and it was a crypto site. I'm not sure whether that one sold, but he sold a couple. And it made me realize that these are something that you can start, and these can become assets that you can sell. And based off the success of him selling to newsletters, he's created thenewsletter.company, and he's launched 20 newsletters in 20 days, I think he said. There's a Twitter thread, and he's creating a course of how to launch and sell newsletters. But like, I've known people doing this for a long time, like Jason Calacanis. I'm a big fan of his. This Week in Startups, he's one of the biggest angel investors, and he's had a YouTube channel for probably over 10 years now. He's like one of the oldest school podcasters or vloggers or video podcasters, however you want to define it. He started doing that very, very early. And where was I going with Jason? Oh yeah, so Jason, he pivoted into a business called inside.com, which is a newsletter business where when you have a look at the homepage, you can sign up to about 20 different newsletters. And when he has a wait list for people to register their interest in different subjects. When they get to 20,000 people, he hires an editor and launches a new newsletter. And so I've known about this model for a while, but I hadn't realized how easy it is to do so, and how you just monetize through ads. For some reason, I just didn't make that connection. And previously with a Facebook group and with my with the podcast previously, Flipping Websites, I didn't have an easy way or any kind of obvious way to monetize. But so you don't need paid for content. You can sell ads. And also newsletters are now taking over local news publications. And I found an example of that recently. And they're probably going to be very competitive with traditional newspapers going forward as well. If you can get all your news once a day in your inbox, then you don't really need to pay for a newspaper or a service elsewhere. So huge amount of opportunity. With Chris, his newsletters, they're in all kinds of different niches. And so anyone can do this.
So then walk me through how, because what I've seen so far, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't had a chance to click on it yet because I just haven't. Mm-hmm. And it's not like anybody who's watching this, I'm not putting it on the screen. So I get the notice that says, here's what it is, here's what the content is. I'm pretty sure I clicked on the email and saw what it was, and then like, I don't have time for this right now, and then went on. But when I click on it, so I click on the link because there's going to be a link in there to take me to some sort of content somewhere. Is that on Substack, or Substack is sending out the email? Are you sending out the email and then it's going to a place? Yeah. And now I want to go look. Yeah,
that's the genius of Substack, and that's why I made the switch. Because previously I was sending emails just like everyone else was, text-based. That's what I'd learned, had higher maybe not open rates, but higher, I don't know. Thinking about it, I'm not too sure why, but people thought it was more personal. People trusted it more if you didn't have formatted email. And so that's what I was doing. And so you're kind of very limited with how much you can put into one email. And you can't run ads. You can't have banner ads, or you can't have sponsored links in a plain text email. And so that's what I was doing for years. But with Substack, and then when you send an email like that, it's lost. It's not stored anywhere. And I know there are platforms like Curated that have an archives. Every time you send an email through their platform, it's a newsletter platform, there's archives and it's curated, it's stored there. But with Substack, you write a post just like you would in a WordPress editor, and you hit publish, and then it's normally ticked send to subscribers by email as well. And it gets published to the web, it gets published to email, and it means that you have a web-based version that people can share. And that's how you can massively grow your audience. Like, how do you grow an audience where you just ending up in someone's inbox with a plain text email? No one's going to afford that. Very few people are going to afford that. But if you have a URL that people can share, and it's good content, and it has the social meta, and it looks attractive, then people are going to share your newsletter because it's actually on the web.
Okay, so what I did was I went to my email then, and I went and clicked on these. And so I have the introductory paragraph, and it has the subscribe now. So the top button up here, is that the free subscription, or is that the one where people want to pay when it says the first?
Yeah, so the email for free subscribers, at the top there's a preamble. You can write just a couple of sentences.
Yeah.
This is the email for free subscribers. Paid subscribers also get this, blah, blah, blah. And a subscribe button that gets added to the top of every email. On the web version, that isn't there. So that only gets sent to people that haven't become paying subscribers. So you wouldn't want to keep frustrating and annoying your paid subscribers. And then
right under that is this little square that tells me what the content is. And so for this one, it's a podcast. And so when I click on it, it goes to the patey.substack.com site. And so then that gives me access to that particular content. And you have not only the podcast information, the free part. So this one is 38 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have all kinds of your show notes, and then a description at the bottom, which I think is great because it talks about part 2. So what people will get in part 2. And then the button is listen to part 2. And then we'll go, part 2 is for paid subscribers and all the rest. And then people can like it, leave comments, and then and then underneath it, it's like a website. I mean, it has your top posts underneath it. You say, okay, well, I can earn from ads here on Substack, and the only ad I see on here, I see an Azoic. Do you add that that specific ad code yourself, or is that something that Substack does, like WordPress?
No, I mean, Substack is amazing, and like I'm not at all technical. May have come up last time. Like I get frustrated with managing WordPress sites. Like I break WordPress, and so I never wanted to become a webmaster. Like I have no technical expertise. So Substack, or you just copy and paste. You can add images. You just upload an image, and then if you just grab it like a Twitter URL, paste it in, hit return, it embeds the tweet. So you just naturally embed stuff. So no, it's super simple, and why I moved to Substack is you have 3 options. You have a post, you have a podcast, and you have a discussion thread. And so with the podcast one, it's just like it's the same editor, but you just have a button at the top to upload an MP3, and you just write the post as you normally would. You say this is for free subscribers. It goes out to the free RSS feed for everyone, which I'll be putting on iTunes and Spotify. iTunes is so clunky. Like I may not even put it there. Just I don't know.
I've been using Buzzsprout to get it there. I went over there and signed up, and then I don't have to go back there ever again for any purpose.
I need to look at that actually. But it's definitely going to be on Spotify, especially with the move with Joe Rogan recently. Like I think Spotify is going to be a really big player. Some stats I've read is that Spotify now has more downloads or more users than iTunes in certain countries. But it's going to flip pretty soon. The next few years, Spotify is going to be the biggest podcasting platform. So you definitely want to be there. But I haven't put it out anywhere yet. So the beauty with Substack is you just upload it like a regular post, hit publish. If it's for paying subscribers, you hit the paying subscriber button and it gets pushed to a private RSS feed. Or it gets pushed to the same one, but paying subscribers get both episodes in their RSS feed. And so I don't need to do anything. It's very cool. So yeah, you mentioned you now have a podcast, and I haven't seen that.
I have barely launched it, and I started uploading content to it in May. So in this month, just a couple weeks ago. And
tell me about it.
And I just recently have actually admitted to people that I have done it. You know, for me, there's always 2 steps in content and jumping into something new. And one is creating it and hitting the publish button, and then telling people about it. And so I'm so
sorry. Like every time I spend so long crafting these emails, these podcasts, like I'm terrified of hitting that final button. Like it's ridiculous. Like I go outside, I go for a walk, I get a cup of tea, I come back and then like hit it, and then I feel great. But anyway, I know what you mean.
No. I've been wanting to do it for months, and I don't have a huge audience. I mean, my audience is growing, and I just feel like there's a lot of value in podcasting, and I am looking ahead. I mean, maybe it's jumping on a trend, maybe it won't work, but I like it. And as far as making videos versus just talking to people, I think I'm better at talking to people. And I think that my content is well suited for podcasting. Yeah. And while I learn about making videos, I'm getting better at editing and transitions and all the things. I'm getting better at it, but I like podcasting. And so I had this block about being intimidated by the technology, and I didn't know what an RSS feed was or what it did. Yep. And then I saw that Buzzsprout sort of said, we do all that for you. And I was like, there's no way you do all this for me. And so I was like, I'm going to call your bluff. I'm going to go there. I'm going to sign up. It's $12 a month. They have a free option, so while you screw around with it and you don't know what you're doing, you don't have to pay anything. Just play with it, and then when you decide you're ready, you just pay then. And and then as an affiliate, it's cool because you can you have actually like a little treat or a gift to offer people who use your link, which a lot of these groups don't. They not only can you do the MRR, right, the monthly recurring revenue as an affiliate, but you can offer your affiliates. Buzzsprout will give them an Amazon gift card. So people can go around your link. Like, I don't need to use your link. I'll just go directly there. But if they use your link, they can incentivize it with an Amazon gift card for $20, and that will pay for the first month and a half of using it. And so I got in there, and then I created everything, and it was way easier than I thought. And then the RSS feed stuff, like they just have instructions for each one of them. And so I'm in it, and they say, you want to be on Spotify? Okay, well, here's how you do it. You go to this button, it clicks it, takes me where I need to go, and then I enter it, and then come back. It literally was like a work of a couple of minutes, except for iTunes.
Yeah.
But now I don't have to do anything with iTunes, because as soon as I upload to Buzzsprout, then it pushes it through my RSS feed, and I don't have to go to Apple ever again for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Apple Podcasts, iTunes, it's just terrible. It doesn't even load on my iPad, or I got off iPhones a while back instead of an iPad. The app just doesn't load. It takes a minute to refresh. It's just a complete joke, and they're losing out, and they were where you needed to be, and you should be everywhere as well, but they're going to be less and less important going forward. So Buzzsprout, does it automatically push your RSS feed within Buzzsprout dashboard? Does it then push it to Spotify and iTunes, or do you have to go to iTunes, go to Spotify URL and enter it manually yourself still?
Nope. Once it's scheduled there, once you're set up and doing it, then it just pushes it out. It's not instant, like it's not within 30 seconds, but they say within 12 to 24 hours it will be updated over there, and that's what I have.
But did you have to go to Spotify to do that in the first place?
In the initial one, I'm just in my Buzzsprout account, so they have a tab for directories, and then you have to go to Spotify and then get it listed there. But the instructions there are super easy to get it done, because they're coordinated. So it's everything they say in there is done. And then it says, I clicked on the Spotify tab because I'm listed over there, and it said, please allow up to 24 hours for new episodes to update in Spotify. And then each time you post a new episode, it will now automatically appear in Spotify. And I'm going to click it now because I want to see. I posted something yesterday, and I want to see if it made it there.
Okay.
So the podcast, by the way, the name was excruciating. It was so hard to come up with the name. Yeah. But I have titled it the Fall Forward Podcast with Amelia Gardner.
The what? Sorry, the
Fall Forward Podcast. So if you're going to
fall forward podcast, okay, yeah.
Fall forward. And I posted yesterday.
I see it. I'm on Spotify now.
And the episode that I uploaded yesterday, it's there. So I didn't do anything. I haven't been back to Spotify since I signed up, and it did it for me.
Yeah.
So
I need to do this. I'll be doing this over the next week or so. I'll be getting onto these platforms. But that looks good.
I mean, I made the channel art myself. I don't know what I'm doing. I just figure I got to start, right? I just have to do something, and I'll fix it as I learn. I told myself that I would not go back and sort of take stock about whether or not it was a win or a fail or anything until I got to 100. 100 episodes. Yep. I'm going to do 100 episodes before I decide to pull the plug and say this is a win, a fail, whatever, because I'm not good at podcasting. Right. I mean, I'm not good at it. And I listen to these other ones where these people are so smooth with their intros, and I'm like, subscribe, please. And
well, I mean, with podcasting, like it's far easier to edit and re-record than it is a video. So I'm sure you'll find it a lot easier going forward. I've actually ditched the intro. Like there's no music, there's no repeated thing, which I just didn't really have time to do it, but also didn't want to do it. And I felt like everyone does that. So now I just talk and go straight into it. It feels a lot cleaner.
I like the idea of talking directly to someone rather than it being a show. And so I've been thinking a lot about the intro, say if what I'm doing here is I want to talk into somebody, into their ear, like basically putting my voice into their brain. It's like, hello, like, hi there. Hello, you person that I have this relationship with and thinking about it. Hello there. It's great to talk to you. Like, how's it going?
I like it. I just played the first few seconds of the first one.
Which one? The most recent one?
No, like that. Well, I just got the first one, the introduction, and you just go straight into speaking.
Yeah.
I really think that's best. I mean, Joe Rogan is the best at doing that. It doesn't need to have any script, no pre-planned questions, no intro, just doesn't ask the person who's interviewing to talk, get them to say how they got to their point, about their background or anything, which I always kind of find a bit, I don't personally like that. Like, I find that a bit unnatural. I like to just record a conversation with someone and see where it goes. And I think you do similar. I think you get better results from that.
Well, it's natural and it's interesting.
Yeah. So I like what you're doing with that so far. So the obvious thing to me is then, are you going to have a web presence for this? And how are you going to tie this into YouTube?
Well, for now, YouTube is the easy way to get people there. And so what I can do and what I am doing and planning, and I have sort of scheduled out, is I record these podcasts with video also. And so, in past times, I have posted the entire interview, just, unedited, just here it is, sort of like the podcast would be. But I think for YouTube, what I'm going to do is cut it down into 15 to 20 minutes, sort of, I don't want to say highlight reel, but, just sort of some of the conversation or a tight topic area of that conversation, and then say, hey, if you want to hear the rest of this conversation, here's the podcast, and you can hear the whole unedited version of it and see where it goes, A, B, C, and D, and then just funnel people there to hear more. So to encourage the downloads over there. I mean, that's the primary way at this point I'm going to get people to podcasts, because I haven't done a whole lot of work to optimize. I hate the word optimize.
Yeah.
But to really help people find me organically, because right now I think people go to my podcast because it's me, not because it's the SEO hub or the website, anything hub. So
is the content different to what you're doing on YouTube?
Right now it is similar, but not. So it focuses primarily on people or things or challenges that we experience online, but I do want to sort of pivot somewhat away from it. So like the first interview I did, I posted here, isn't one that I had put on YouTube at all. I actually interviewed Sarah from Ezoic, so to talk to her about her growth and progress and landing that job. She's 24 and she's the head of the head of influencer partnerships at a fairly major startup, and sort of how she got there. And I think she's really interesting, aside from what it is that she does at this particular company. And so this is not about building websites. It's not about monetizing websites. It's about a person who is in our space, who had her own growth and challenges and ended up in a pretty cool place. And I think her story is interesting. And
yeah, but I mean, does your YouTube channel have to be just about websites?
No, but could
it not just be about you and then what you choose to do going forward? Could it not be everything that you're doing?
Well, that's interesting, because how I think people have come to the channel and subscribe to it is because of, well, I assume, I'm making, of course, some assumptions that it's less about me and more about the content, but I think that I am lying to myself is the wrong word. I don't think I'm really honest and aware of why it is that people hit the subscribe button. It honestly, and the reason I think this is because Chris, who's another guy who's in my community, made a video recently about the 5 gurus that you should follow on YouTube who were legit and honest in making videos about building websites. And I'm not on that list, right? I'm not a guru. I'm not the teacher, but he included me as a special mention, as like a hub. Like, this is a person who gathers people around her who actually know things. So I don't merit guru status. Don't come to me to learn stuff. Come to me because I talk to the people who know about stuff.
I feel that's where I want to position myself. I've never felt comfortable being interviewed as an expert in something. I want to, with this new publication, I want to be reporting on the website investing industry, the space, and having conversations with the best people, with the best investors, flippers, SEOs. And I don't need to be that expert now, but I can be, the most expert person at understanding where the space is going. So yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I think people are subscribing because of you.
I think so. But I guess I'm in denial about that.
I mean, obviously your income store coverage was, no one else was doing that or capable of doing it in the way that you were. So,
and nobody is still to this day.
Yeah. So, I mean, your YouTube channel is Amelia Gardner. So, I mean, I would be tempted to just combine everything together, get a web presence, build an email list, and just have everything working and synergistically helping everything else. So
I agree. I think you're right, though, is that every piece supports the other. It's an ecosystem of my brand, and I am in denial about having a brand. And that's one of the things that Sarah pointed out to me recently. She's like, you do have a brand. I said, no, I don't. She's like, it's your name. It's your person. That is your brand, the way that you are. I was like, no, I don't. She's like, you do. I'm like, ah, do I?
Yeah, us solo people, I guess we do. Our name is the brand.
It is.
That's what we have. And so, yeah, I mean, you've got 1,600 subscribers now on YouTube.
Pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I've my email list, like I've pruned it over the years. I've sold businesses with email lists that I kind of wish that I hadn't. But so my main email list now for website investing is just 2,200 people. So imagine if you were to get, like right now, like hopefully if we speak again, that's now 10x. Like my goal is to really grow this incredibly aggressively to, have the by far the biggest audience and list in this space. And I see what other brokers have in terms of the number of investors they have on their email lists, and it's completely possible to get to 30, 40, 50,000 people and beyond. So that's what I'm aiming for. But if you were to get if your 1,600 subscribers, if you were to get their email address, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't be able to capture most of them if you ask for it over time.
Yeah.
Then that's a really good position to start from. And if you use a platform like Substack or something else that brings everything together, then things will just grow. You could publish your podcast. Could be public, like YouTube could be a channel for publishing your podcast, like an additional channel like Spotify. It doesn't have to be separate. Like you started on YouTube, you've built an audience on YouTube. That's the unique thing about YouTube is the community and the comments. YouTube does that better than anything. So maybe it would need to be its own separate thing, but maybe you build it around YouTube, but it then gets pushed everywhere else. I don't know, but there'd be ways to bring this all together, and there'll be people that you could look at and model how they best do that. I mean, obviously Joe Rogan podcast, it started on iTunes. He was it always video? I guess it was always video, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't actually even follow Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I know him. Not personally. I mean, I know of him, but
yeah. So, but I mean, it's published. It's a video podcast that's published on YouTube, but it's published elsewhere, so it's available elsewhere as well. So, I think it would make sense if you could combine what you're doing, and you don't have to think about the podcast as something separate to what you're already doing. Going forward, podcasts are becoming more common to be video.
Yeah.
And you're natural at that. I'm not natural at that. I want to just focus on audio. Like I find it so much easier not, having a camera on. So I've always been into radio a lot. There's a radio station in the UK called LBC. And when they started publishing the video stream, it was really interesting because you would just see people, you would see where their eyes are going. No one's looking at the camera. You could see facial expressions, like they weren't really aware that they were, it was a new format. Mm-hmm. Now they're a lot more, direct to the camera, but you can get away with a lot more. You can get away with a lot more thinking. You can be looking up stuff while people are speaking to you, which I think helps conversations as well. I think you can do a lot. I can personally do a lot more in audio than I could in video. It's a far better fit for me. But you're natural at video. Well, maybe you're not natural. Maybe you are now compared to like I'm not. You're doing it. This is going on your YouTube channel. You figured that out, and so just taking an audio version of that is the podcast.
That's pretty much what it's been. But I want to maybe it's calling you out, maybe poking at you. You say, oh, I'm not natural. I don't know this, that, or whatever. Like, I don't really see any differences between us right now, what we're doing. You say, oh, you're natural, I'm not. But here you are on video looking up stuff to help this conversation, and the conversation is being recorded on video. I'm going to use it in the podcast too, but what is the difference here between us?
Yeah, but I see some people are very good at video, and they maintain the eye contact throughout. I mean, I'm just, it's not me. It's not the British way. I don't think. I don't.
I think this is your block, just like my block is about this, that, or whatever.
But I guess more importantly, like, I don't want to. That's the thing. I love audio. I love the fact that you can just focus on the microphone and the conversation and not have to be aware of someone looking at you or how you're looking or what you're doing. So that's just me. But
I think this is your hang up. Look at me. I don't have makeup on. I'm wearing a funnel hacker shirt in my house that has no background.
But I don't want to do video. That's the thing. I don't want to do YouTube. I don't want to be a YouTuber. I don't want to put out a video. I love the fact that Substack is just writing and audio. And I hope they don't do video, because maybe I'll be compelled to get into that game at some point. But I know that I'm best at writing. This is my third podcast now. Been doing this on and off since like 2015. And like, I just feel comfortable there. And so that's enough. Writing and audio is enough to build a good business out on. And I'll let other people in the space, win at video and win at YouTube.
Well, ultimately, I think people should work on the platform that they can publish content on and that they do publish content on. So whatever that is, if it's blogging or podcasting or video or whatever, if you can hit the publish button there, then you should do it, and not worry about the areas that you can't, unless you're someone like me who drives them crazy that they can't hit the publish button on it because of personal insecurities. And that's why I started on YouTube. It's because I was personally insecure about seeing my face on the screen. Like that was the problem.
No, I don't like it. No.
You don't like my face?
I don't like seeing me. I'm just thinking, like, why couldn't it, like, I like Full Forward. I like what you've done with the artwork.
Yeah, this is Canva, just me, because it matches the colors of my thumbnails, because my thumbnails are black and red and orange. So I just wanted it to be consistent with that.
Yeah. That makes sense. So
people would see it and be like, oh yeah, those are the same colors. And I haven't figured out my YouTube channel art and all the rest. I haven't settled on anything, but for now, at least for the near future, just all the colors will be the same. Like even the player is the same color. So it's got the red button and it's like very clearly my stuff.
Yeah. Do you follow a lot of people on YouTube? Do you have a lot of subscriptions?
I don't subscribe to many, but I do spend quite a bit of time, I guess, doing research, like competition research. So going and looking at similar size channels, people who are behind me or in front of me or are at the stage I want to be. So I'm not looking at Mr. Beast as someone to emulate. I'm looking at people who have channels that are between 1,000 subscribers and 10,000, and looking at what it is they're doing and trying to model what it is that they are doing, because that's where I want to be next. I checked Social Blade today, and Social Blade says on my trajectory that in 12 months I'll be at 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, I bet it. I mean, you reached 1,000 a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago?
At the beginning of April.
Okay, that's about 6 weeks, and you're now over halfway towards 2,000. I mean, it speeds up. It's possibly, it's somewhat exponential looking curve. Like I would think that would happen. Yeah, for sure.
Well, my superpower though on this, honestly, is less about the videos or the algorithm or anything. It's collabs. It literally is doing the interviews and talking to people either over there on their channel or bringing them to mine. That's really powerful, and I think people ought to do it more, because it really is a chance. People just don't know about you, or maybe they don't know what your content is, and then going and just having that opportunity to spend a few minutes with them. You don't have to ask them to come subscribe. If they're interested in you and like you, they will follow you back.
Yeah,
they will come back. You don't have to sell or do anything. It's just a chance to get there in front of them. And people with small channels, I feel like they should be doing a lot more with that and less with worrying about thumbnails and worrying about tags or anything. They should just be trying to help their fellow YouTuber out, this community thing. I think it's a way better investment in time than just about anything else that anybody's doing.
I agree. Yeah, you have to put yourself out there. You have to get known, and yeah, like being on other people's podcasts is a great way of doing that. Having a look at subscriptions in YouTube and seeing how many people have their name versus a business name as the channel, and in terms of our community, it seems to be they all have their personal name as the channel name, which is what you do.
I see a lot of people with the name and then their brand after that. Mm-hmm. So like my friend John, he brands himself as the digital introvert. So it's John Davis, and then a little the dash, and then digital introvert after that. Yeah. So he can do both, and the channel name is that.
Yeah. So I spent a long time, website investing is a pretty poor creative choice. But I spent a long time trying to think what would be the best name, and in terms of how it's displayed. So on Substack, if you look at the top 25 people of substack.com/discover, and if you click through, make sure you're on the paid publications tab, you can see the top 25 there.
So if I go to substack.com?
Yeah, substack.com/discover. And so you'll see the way that most people do it is some kind of description about the niche, and then it's by their name. So for me, if I would appear in that top 25, it would be website investing by Richard Patey.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense to me. So what you just said, combining both together, makes a lot of sense. So, maybe the fall forward could be your business name or the website name. And do you have a domain yet?
The fall forward is not available. .com, .net, none of those things. The fall forward show or something around the podcast is.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't want to buy a domain because I wasn't sure if I was going to stick with it. I really wanted to chew on it for a while. It literally, the name held me up for 2 months, because every time I came up with the name and proposed it to someone, they're like, what does that mean? Yeah. I don't understand what you're trying to do here. Shouldn't a podcast be, tell people what it's going to be about, shouldn't there be your SEO keywords in the title? And it's like, you're right. I don't know what I'm doing. And
no, I like it. But yeah, going forward, you kind of do need to attach a domain to it, whether that's fallforward.show, or your own personal name.com, if you can get it. If you don't have
I can't. Somebody else has it.
Okay.
And I don't want to buy the .net or the .co or the .xyz or the whatever.
Yeah, that's a little bit annoying. So, okay, well, then that eliminates it. So, but you said you didn't want it to be a show.
You mean the fall forward show, you mean?
No, yeah, so you were saying you didn't like the terminology show. You preferred it to feel more natural than.
Oh yeah, I'm calling in the podcast. I call it this show. This is my show, but I don't make it like a show. I don't do any bells or whistles. I don't have any sound effects or any effects at all. Yeah. I just go through and I spend about an hour cutting out all my. Or sometimes you have a guest who goes on and spends a lot of time going, they don't even realize it. We don't even realize the things that we say or how we do. And so I've been trying to clean up the audio just to clean up a lot of the.
Well, that's good. And you've now got me very aware not to, I've got a lot better about. I used to suck at that. Like when I first had my podcast, I was co-hosting it with a guy who did the editing. And I think it's part of the reason why we fell out and why I never heard from him since.
Oh.
Was the fact that there were so many ers and ums that he had to edit that I think he just ended up hating me, and then went dark. But I've got a lot better at that over the years, but I still do it. But you will see a lot of shows, if you go on someone else's shows, you'll be surprised how many of them do not edit out your mistakes. Now, if you come on my show, which I'm very happy for you to do so.
Oh, that'd be fun. I think it'd be really fun.
Yeah. No, definitely. We'll make that happen. But I edit the episodes a lot. Like I find the editing process is part of the art, and is a big component to the quality that I can end up with. Is the editing. So editing takes a long time, and I also don't outsource that. People have thought that I've been crazy for not doing that previously, but how does someone know what to leave in, what to leave out, how to edit better than the person who has had the conversation and who wants to sculpt it in a way that will best resonate with the audience, will offer the most value? So editing takes a long time, and Ursunam's, there was one, are very time consuming. So I know exactly what you mean. A lot of people don't bother editing that at all, though, but I like to do it. I like to make people that come on my show sound better, or sound the best that they can. Yeah,
I agree totally, and it's not just for me. I mean, it is for them.
Yeah, it's surprising when you get the audio back. When I had a conversation recently where I can't remember the technical term, but the two audio feeds, one was going at a different speed than the other, so everything overlapped. That's the first time it's ever happened to me. Maybe I've done 100 episodes in total over the years, but that really sucked. But normally that doesn't happen, and then you'll see some unusual like waveforms or spaces, and it's interesting because you don't pick it up when you're speaking with the person. But I had someone that paused for 2 to 3 seconds before they answered, possibly in a similar way, which seemed strange to me, that there was so much kind of dead air. So on YouTube, when people are seeing someone thinking, that doesn't matter, right? But yeah, audio, I think there's a lot more work with. That kind of contradicts what I said earlier, in terms of, video editing is a lot harder, no doubt, but there's probably less of it. With audio, there's a lot more that can be cleaned up, that you could invest the time into.
Well, I think it takes, with the video, so with the audio, you may be looking at a conversation that will go between 30 minutes and 60 minutes. And so you're editing basically every second of it for a conversation that went for an hour. But for content for YouTube, I mean, I'll make clips that are 2 to 3 minutes long with a goal of creating a video that's between 10 and 20 minutes long in general. And then I'll have other things in it, but I'm having to edit carefully much less content overall. On YouTube. And so I may have other clips from other people or whatever else, but it takes me 5, 6, 7 hours to get through an interview that's 60 minutes long.
On audio, on a podcast?
On audio.
Wow. I mean, this can happen. This is, again, why I mentioned my previous co-host got mad at me, I think, because I think it used to take him a whole day. You will get a lot quicker. And obviously, if you want to scale and want to bring on other people, then this is something that you can outsource. And a lot of people will say, you should do this. You should just focus on content. But for now, assuming that we're going to be doing it going forward, and I will for the foreseeable future anyway, I'm going to keep editing the audio that I put out. You will get better at it. You will get quicker at it. But I'm going to bring up an episode that I did previously and just kind of see how many cuts I've done. This episode was about an hour. And if I had to guess, I would say that there's 60, 70 different cuts that I've made in this 1 hour episode.
I go through every second of it. And then I also listen to say, okay, does this make sense? Do we need this? They say the same thing 2 different ways, or, they repeat themselves. And I think, okay, does this fit? And then I try to be sort of ruthless with chopping things out. And sometimes that means I go back and listen to it.
Yeah.
Again, all the way through. And
yeah. And that's why I think audio is really special, because that's what you do. That is what you naturally want to do. You want to take out what shouldn't be there and have the highest quality content that you put out, which is why I think it's higher value and higher quality potentially than YouTube. YouTube, you can see someone, you can see their expressions. There's a lot more engagement, but I think there's a lot more wasted time. I mean, if there's like an hour episode on YouTube that someone's put out, I will very likely, I'm not going to spend the time going all the way through, because with YouTube, if you're putting out video content, then the intention is for it to be watched, and you kind of you should be very observant to everything that's going on. So I don't have the time to do that. If I'm listening to an audio episode, then I'm assuming it's edited. I'm going to assume that if it's an hour long, it's an hour worth of very strong content. But on YouTube, I kind of feel that a lot of people ramble a lot, and there's a lot of stuff that would normally be removed if it was audio.
I saw Gary Vee do, episode is the wrong word, one of his videos in the last month or so. It was a video of him on stage speaking somewhere. It was talking about how YouTube is changing and how people are consuming YouTube differently. And in the old days, you make the assumption that for YouTube, it's visual, people are there to watch. And he gave some sort of stat about how people are using YouTube now like a podcast, and how most people nowadays aren't even watching the video. So I think it was an argument about why it is that you don't have to be a super amazing video editor to be successful on YouTube. He says a lot of people now, a great percentage of people on YouTube now, are putting on a video and then walking away from it to go do other things, or they'll put their phone in their pocket and listen to it. He's like, you really just, it doesn't matter what it looks like. It just matters what you say. What do they hear?
That's interesting. I personally don't do that at all. Maybe people are.
I do.
You do?
I do all the time, because the content that I find on YouTube a lot isn't available to a podcast yet that I necessarily know of. And on YouTube, it's just there. I already know these people there. I know what they have. And so all the time I do the dishes listening to videos. I just put my phone up and put it in a bowl so that the speaker is loud. And then I do my dishes and listen to the video or whatever. I don't need to see what's on screen. I
do my dishes watching the video. I feel like I have to watch it. I can't put it down. If there's video on, then I feel like I'm missing out on something. Yeah, and so I literally, I have like this water jug, and I put it up next to the window and put my iPad on there, and I wash up, probably in a bad posture, watching video while I wash up. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe people. So then, the difference between YouTube and a podcast is becoming less and less. Everything will just become one. I don't know if most people are calling the YouTube content podcasts now anyway. Maybe that will just be the general term that is used for any audio or video content. But
a lot more people are doing video podcasts.
Yeah.
They're doing both. They have their podcast over there, and then they upload the video over there.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with the technical definition of a podcast is it's, an RSS feed, which maybe you can do video on an RSS feed. I don't know, but it's audio, it's MP3.
And if you want to be technical, I mean, a YouTube video of recording the interview, I mean, it's not an RSS feed. It's just people are taking that content, which they recorded anyway, like we're doing right now, and then just putting it over there because there's other people over there who might be interested in that. And maybe Jared Krause does that. I don't know if you've seen his Buying Online Businesses YouTube channel. It's just his podcast. He doesn't edit it. He doesn't get necessarily massive views on it because I think most people who consume it are either from his group or are getting it from their podcast apps. But it is growing him a YouTube channel. And I have to think that it is bringing him customers for his product and his services, because there are just some people who use YouTube. Just are.
I'm just having a look, seeing what he's doing. Is it video? It is video.
It is video. And it's his podcast. He's got his big headphones on, and he's got the two things, and he's just talking to them, and but it's for his podcast. It's like, this is the podcast, and he might cut a clip out, like, 5 minutes of it for here or whatever. But
then are you going to be doing similar then?
I am, and I don't know necessarily if I will chop every piece of it, and really to try and, hit the algorithm or whatever else. I mean, right now it's just, I want to feed people from YouTube who are interested in the podcast over there. So I want to give them a reason to go there, because if they can get the whole podcast on YouTube, then there's no reason for them to go get it from iTunes.
And so I just logged into Substack and having a look at the stats. So I published a podcast yesterday. It was the Saturday recording on Friday. And so I've got nothing to hide with any. So you got email to 2,164 email recipients, 24% opened, which is 1,000. How does that make sense?
24% is good.
Yeah, but then it also says 939 people open, which is more than 24%. I need to figure out what this bit means. But 1,000 people, 1,002 total views, which is maybe that's some kind of metric that you can use going forward, because that'll be a combination of people that clicked on the email and then probably opened up the web version as well.
Maybe.
Not sure how this is, because there's more views than opens.
That makes sense though. Like somebody might click on it twice.
Yeah.
Like I opened your email once and then clicked on it twice.
Yeah. So if you can count total views, you're bringing 2 channels, you're bringing email and you're bringing web, and then you also have podcast downloads. So from those 1,002 views, 75 people downloaded the podcast, and the podcast is currently not available anywhere because I haven't. It should be on my to-do list to put it everywhere. It will be very soon. But this is very cool. Like I now that you said and like, I hear myself every time I say the word like, and it bothers me.
I say it all the time and I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, it's easier for British people. We copied Americans. We didn't have like in our vocabulary until it came from you guys. So it's easier for us. We haven't been doing it as long. But so I try, and I'm very happy to talking to you on Saturdays. Like my week now is so crazy. Mm-hmm. I have the Monday free email. It takes up all of Monday. I have the Wednesday deals email. That's my Wednesday on the podcast. That's easy to schedule in advance, but that's my focus on Friday. So I have very few opportunities to, I don't have much outside of that. So it's good to talk to you on Saturday where I've rested up, and on Saturday now I try not to do anything, like check no email, and check no stats. But I just logged in and I'm very happy. This is the first time this has happened. So from sending that podcast episode where part 1 was free, 30 minutes was free, I've had 4 subscriptions. 4 people have joined as paying subscribers.
How much does it cost to subscribe now?
Which is amazing. $49 a month. Mm-hmm. And that was an amount that I picked before I did a lot of research into this space. There's only one other publication on Substack I've seen that charges $49 a month. So that's really high. Like this is high end. And if I were to start again, I think I would choose a lower price point.
Yeah.
And maybe going forward, maybe I can adjust it somehow and get a lot more people on the paying subscribers. But I also like the fact that it's premium as well. That was the name, Patey Premium, the dumb name. It was never going to stay Patey Premium. It was always going to end up as something. I just didn't know where that was going to be. But I like the fact that it is premium. Less people seeing deals makes it more valuable, and the more serious people would pay more money to get access to that. But if I were charging, $10 a month, then from what I've read on Substack, you can assume like 10% of your audience will become paid subscribers. Uh-huh. So 2,000 email lists, 200 people would be paid subscribers, but that would actually generate me less revenue than I currently am from my 70 plus people. Anyway, 4 new subscribers. So that's amazing. That's the first time this has worked.
So that's close to an extra $200 then.
Yeah. I got $200 extra a month from sending 1 podcast episode of free content, because they wanted, I'm assuming they wanted the part 2. And the part 2 of the one that I sent was actually very high quality, but they would have to trust me that it is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this is the benefit of having everything in one place or one platform. And so I would really recommend just trying to combine everything.
What does it cost to be on Substack?
They charge you 10% of what you make. Okay. There's no SaaS play. It's not a subscription service, which is cool.
Yeah.
And I would consider you, depending on whether you like writing, to get a newsletter going as well. Everyone should have a newsletter. It's just the best medium for having a direct relationship. I don't think there's any better medium for guaranteeing someone seeing what you're putting out. I have a YouTube channel. I don't know how many of your 1,600 people see every new episode, but with email, you see the open rates. Like, I know that 900 people out of my 2,200 people list saw the content that I put out, which is like 50%. So I would recommend that you try and combine all of this together, and you would just see your numbers grow, and what you could say to companies in terms of sponsorship and deals and ad revenue and affiliate deals. Everything will just compound, and you'll very quickly end up with 10,000 people on YouTube, 2,000, 3,000 email subscribers, 500 podcast episodes, downloads an episode.
So you don't have to have a separate email responder?
So I don't now. I send everyone to Substack. I have 0 autoresponders running, and it feels great.
I know. I hate autoresponders.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, went deep into Russell Brunson, ClickFunnels, and I'm glad I'm now out the other side. So there's no other product that I'm selling. The only thing that I'm selling is my content. And so yeah, you should check this out.
I'm going to. I am going to. I made a promise to myself that I would not start something new until I grew something that I already had started to $1,000 a month. So so I need to either get this YouTube channel, or I need to get this other thing over here, or this other website over here. Like, I don't get to start something new until I get to $1,000 a month. So I'm working my ass off on YouTube because I want to get to $1,000 a month on there.
Yeah.
So I can start something new.
Fair enough. But if you were to have the same content go out on YouTube to your podcast and get downloads going there, you would have an additional channel immediately that you could then start selling sponsorship against the podcasts on your podcast, as well as the earnings that YouTube is paying you.
Yeah, I have this dream that I could get enough downloads of the podcast going to sell sponsorships. I have this dream that I'm going to make that happen somehow.
Yeah, but if you just put out all your video content as a podcast, so what you can do on the same podcast feed is have different shows. So you could call your YouTube channel your own name, or you could call it something, and that would be separate to the content that you're currently putting out on the podcast. So you would just start with, episode 1 or episode whatever of this show, and then this person, this discussion, and then a different episode would start with a different start to it. So people would know that there are 2 different shows on your same RSS, and everything would just be within the same feed. You'd have the same number of downloads. But if you didn't want everything to be together, you could decompartmentalize that way. So you could have 2 shows on the same feed. I see some people doing that. And
so
actually,
that could be, though, one of the things that we struggle with on YouTube is that YouTube doesn't do a good job of notifying people when a new anything comes out. And so Substack could be a way to, sort of summarize, like, here's what the video is about, and just I'm not trying to sell you on whatever. It's just, this is a great way to stay. I'm trying to think of like how I would talk about it, and that would be a great way to initially get people going. It says, hey, I'm letting my followers, my subscribers know what I'm doing by blasting out, this thing, instead of doing an autoresponder and all the rest. And, I'm just putting it all in one place. So if you want to stay up to date on what's going on the podcast or on the YouTube channel, or get, my written posts, this is a great sort of hub. You've gotten me convinced.
I agree. You need the domain. Well, the great thing about Substack, there's pros and cons, but I really like it. You don't need your own domain. So for me, it's patey.substack.com.
Yeah.
So you could just grab amelia.substack.com and immediately just start putting out. You've chosen your Buzzsprout. That's fine.
Well, I haven't. I mean, it helps me with the RSS feed, and I mean, who knows if I'll use it in perpetuity, but that's where I am for now. And I kind of like it as an affiliate product, so I want to use it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, look at all this praise I've been saying about Substack. I'm not even an affiliate. They don't even have an affiliate program.
No, because they don't charge a whole lot of money for what they do. Like, for a lot of people, if they don't earn money, then they don't earn anything, right?
That's true. Most people will be free or will not be able to monetize it, or they're not monetizing it too well. That's true. Most people will not be making money. So that's why. But yeah, if you really like a platform, you're gonna talk about it and praise it anyway. But you could actually, some people that are on Substack are not using Substack for the podcast. They're using whatever. So one of the top guys is a finance guy, and he also talks a lot about crypto, which is Anthony Pompliano, a very popular guy. He's a big YouTuber as well. Interviews, some of the biggest names. His is the Pomp Letter by Anthony Pompliano, and his publication is called Off the Chain. And his is pomp.substack.com. He doesn't use Substack for his podcasts. He uses the audio capabilities of Substack to just create an audio version of his emails, of his posts. And they're 10 minutes in length. He calls them the Pomp Letter. So there's a lot of ways of doing it. So you could have the media letter, once a week. This is what I did this week. This is the content that I put out. So yeah, this kind of approach could be very good for you. The one thing I'm certain of is you need to ask people for their emails.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure YouTube doesn't have any kind of terms of service where that you're not able to do that.
No,
so just create, you can use service like Lead Pages or anything, but I would get a website going, even if it's just what Russell Brunson would call a squeeze page, and just have, I'm Amelia, this is my newsletter, sign up here, and direct everyone on, every YouTube video you put out, you mention the URL to subscribe to your newsletter and say what the benefits are, and you give your own thoughts. There are so many writers on Substack that are just putting out what's in their head and what they're observing with the world, and in a completely non-commercial way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So then for Substack though, if you're using Substack as the hub and Substack does the blasting out, right? That does that for you.
Yeah.
Do you have to input the emails manually then from
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. So they have to opt in somewhere else.
So if you were to have a Substack account, you would just say go to amelia.substack.com.
And they could opt in there.
Yeah, because that's your publication.
That's what I wanted to make sure, because I wasn't sure if you needed to have the opt-in somewhere else. Like they would do it there. And if not, it's what you're saying, that I need to do something about that.
Yeah. And then, so I don't have an email provider anymore. So Substack does that. I don't have a podcast hosting company because Substack hosts it.
Yeah.
So this obviously doesn't have to be Substack, but this approach where you are bringing everything together within your own publication, your own domain, is very powerful. Because like I just said, like I sent a podcast episode and I got $200 in MRR.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's
like
awesome.
I'm very happy now. I'm going to have some wine if I'd not already drunk everything. Getting alcohol in lockdown is hard.
If you like this interview, I have to tell you there is a whole bunch more. You can catch it in one of two places. One, you can click that video you see right there on the screen, or you could jump over to my podcast where I have both of these conversations uploaded and you can listen to them